Hey guys and girls and everything in between, this is your podcasting pal, Psycho Steve, here on Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. Today we are very fortunate and blessed to have one of my favorite drummers. I've been fans of his for, I'm not going to say how many years because then it'll show how old we both are, but I want you guys and girls and everything in between to focus and listen to this man. He doesn't just play drums, he's also a health expert, because when I stood next to him, I was like Pee Wee Herman's stunt double. And I am talking about the legend, the myth, Mr. Bobby Rock. Good day, sir.
What's up, bro? How's everything?
Everything is fantastic. How about you?
The same, man, the same.
Awesome. So first of all, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to talk to us and, shoot the shit and make this happen.
My pleasure.
So, as we all know, that you've been a drummer for how many years now? Was drums your first instrument?
It was, first and only, and man, we're going to blow this whole how many years thing. I think it's been 45 years I've been playing now.
Okay. That's awesome. Now, were you self-taught, or did you get lessons, or did you have a family member be a musician, or how did it all become what it is now?
Well, my dad had been a drummer as a hobbyist, and so he wasn't actively playing when I came along, but he had an old set of Ludwigs up in the attic. So after watching a neighborhood kid play along with Black Sabbath Volume 4 when I was about 10 years old, that was it, man. I knew my destiny was to be a drummer. So we pulled the drums out of the attic, and I guess for me it was a combination of just jamming around, jamming with neighborhood kids, but also, I got into drum lessons pretty early, and I had a really special band director from a really young age who got me started with the rudiments and reading music and all that. So for me, it was like a combination of jamming in bands and having private lessons and always being involved with the school band and that kind of thing. So between all of those influences, I somehow managed to, make some progress.
Awesome. Now, was your drum teacher an actual well-known drummer, or he was just a teacher from like school kind of thing?
He was known as probably the best drummer in Houston at the time. His name is Randy May, and he would go on. He was actually a bad motherfucker as a drummer, but he would go on to become quite renowned in the drumming community for a lot of the different inventions and variations that different gear-related inventions that he had. Like, have you ever seen what they call the May EA miking system, where drummers put the mics inside the toms, inside the drums?
Yeah, like triggers.
It was actually before triggers, although some people use the technique to trigger, but it's a way of miking the drums from the inside.
Right. And
so he was the one who invented essentially internal drum miking.
Awesome.
So to this day, in fact, I saw him at a trade show a year ago in LA. So we hadn't seen each other in years, so that was pretty cool. But he's actively has his own business, his own company where he does a lot of these crazy inventions.
Wow.
Yeah, I was lucky to have that guy, man. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So your drumming style is not conventional, and I would feel like your influences are Buddy Rich, John Bonham.
Wow.
That's just how I perceive you as, because like I said, I've been following you for close to 30 years now, probably over 30 now, but that's what I perceive. Like growing up, like who would you say your influences are?
Yeah, actually, that's very astute what you just said there. My influences are kind of unconventional in that, I started out with the rock guys, Tommy Aldridge way back in the day when he was with Black Oak, Arkansas, before Ozzy and Pat Travers, Ian Pace and Deep Purple, and that Made in Japan double live record. Like those were some of and of course, Bill Ward with Black Sabbath and just all the rock guys.
Right.
Who I was, stealing all my shit from early on. And then as I got up into junior high school, I started listening to like the Buddy Rich and the Jazz jazz stuff, and this other drummer, Billy Cobham, and a lot of what they call the fusion drummers. So it was quite a mixed bag. And then once I went to the Berklee School of Music in Boston out of high school, then it was just like everyone and everyone, kind of like all different styles, a lot of the different from funk to progressive jazz to everything but rock actually for a while there. And then I kind of went full circle back into the rock thing and wound up with the Invasion. But prior to that, it was just, I always considered my approach to drumming to be kind of like a melting pot approach. That's what I would call it.
Awesome.
It was like a little bit of everything all blended in together,
Right. Now, before you went to Berklee, did you know how to play to a click track?
Back then, the closest we would get is like a metronome.
Okay.
And I think even what little studio experience I had prior to Berklee, which wasn't much coming out of high school, we didn't really deal with click tracks much. And for your listeners who aren't familiar, this is a very common thing when you record in a studio. It's like essentially an electronic metronomical reference, if you will, that the drummer plays with, so the tempo stays steady throughout the song. And so way back in the prehistoric days, then it was less common. In fact, many of our favorite records were not cut to click tracks, throughout the 70s.
Right.
But in the 80s, it became more prevalent, more common. And once I got up to Berklee, that's when I was indoctrinated to the ways of, steady time, working with the metronome, and then obviously playing to a click track in a studio environment.
Nice. Now, when you're not gigging or recording, do you still play every day?
Pretty much. It actually kind of depends on what's going on in my immediate future.
Right.
In other words, if I like to do a little playing every day just to stay loose, and sometimes it might just be the practice pad stuff,
right?
Especially if I'm traveling, If I'm on the road, that's definitely an everyday thing. Days off and whatnot too, just to kind of hit the pad. Because to me, the practice pad to the drummer is like the punching bag is to the boxer. This is where you refine your technique, work on your speed, work on your endurance, and keep things pretty loose. Now, at this stage of the game, if I miss a couple of days here or there, whatever, it's really no consequence because it's just drumming has become so ingrained in my nervous system and physicality, if you will, that it just almost doesn't matter. However, I do like to practice. I do like to get better. Here lately, as I'm looking to record a new solo record next month, now I'm back up to trying to get those, 3+ hours a day and, working on new stuff, really trying to take things to the next level. So it's something that I still really enjoy and really aspire to get in there and do every day,
Awesome. Speaking of solo album, is there going to be any special guests on the solo album, or are you doing it all?
Well, whenever I do, or whenever I've done solo records in the past, my main go-to guys have always been this guitarist named Brett Garson. He's an Australian-based guitarist, but he's done his own solo records, and he works with a really famous artist over there. And I met him doing the Nelson gig, believe it or not, back in the early 90s. But he's a phenomenal player, and then my old Berklee roommate, a guy named Carl Carter, and so those three guys, like back when Brett and I were working in the early 90s, and we had, Carl was in LA, and so just a long story short, we just kind of, the three of us had this sort of magic chemistry for jamming together, playing together, and the kind of music we do, which is this, it's kind of like a funk rock type of a thing with this, these progressive overtones to it. It's really kind of hard to describe. It's almost like, like Jeff Beck or Joe Satriani or Steve Vai, kind of like in that genre,
Awesome.
And so, we've done a couple of records in the past. We've done a lot of touring together. So we're kind of getting back together to do another record. And this new record is a soundtrack for my latest book, The Boy Is Gonna Rock. So we're going to do like these, adventurous instrumental versions of some of the songs that inspired the book. books has inspired the story, I could say. So, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, crazy arrangements of some of those classic songs. Got a couple, 2-3 BBI tunes we're looking at doing.
Awesome.
Again, instrumental, kind of whacked. And so that will be the core band recording the record. And there will be hopefully 2 other special guests on a couple tracks. I haven't even talked to the special guests yet, but there are 2 people I have in mind that I'd love to come on and do some playing on this thing as well. But basically, this is the concept we're doing. We're looking to kind of recreate that band, that group sound that we've had through the years, and do something really, really different and cool. That's sort of based on the book.
Awesome. Now, everybody also knows that you also are very health conscious when it comes to eating and working out and everything. Do you work out every day?
I do.
Okay.
The day is rare if I miss some sort of training, because essentially what my regimen has been for quite a while now is kind of rotate 3 different exercise modalities every week. So there's going to the gym and hitting the weights. Right. There's running, and then there's a martial arts practice.
Cool. What kind of martial arts?
What I've been working on lately is kind of a combination of traditional kung fu, wushu, which is like people may recognize it as like the Jet Li style, or the traditional kung fu, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do stuff, mixed in with some eskrima, the Filipino stick fighting, and then just straight ahead kickboxing. So my teacher, Matt Emery, is a master of all of those forms, and what he does is he kind of, all of those styles, so what he does is kind of a blend or a combination of those 4 different styles. So when we train, it could be, various amounts of time dedicated to each one. So that tends to keep your hands full doing that kind of training. So what I'll do is, on any given day, I'll usually do at least 2 of the different, I kind of run and then do some martial arts, and the next day hit the weights and do some martial arts. But then if it works out, I may wind up doing all 3 on some days, or if I'm traveling, I may just do like a martial arts workout in the hotel room, or I may catch a late night workout at the hotel gym, or go for a run real late, or it's just every day is different. So I'm constantly cycling through those 3 things. But the key is that to have those 3 realms of training, I think, is the best way to really optimize your fitness, because you got the resistance training with weights, you got the cardiovascular training with running, and then the martial arts is what I call your ultimate, function and flexibility. Your structure, your stretching, staying limber, and then all the different kinds of movements that are involved. You put all 3 of those things together, man, and you got all the bases covered.
Wow.
It's a lifestyle thing I've been doing for a lot of years, and now it's just as much a part of the routine as brushing my teeth, basically,
Right on. So a couple of my fans, believe it or not, I have a couple fans, but their fans are yours more than mine. But they heard that I was going to be that we've been doing this interview. So they had a couple questions as far as in your workout routine. They wanted to know.
Sure.
Kerry from Boston, Massachusetts is a fellow drummer as well, and he wants to know, how much do you bench?
Well, my bench has never been my most impressive lift, to put it that way,
Okay.
So, I think that, I've done like, 300 is probably on the upper end of what I have done. Right. However, these days, to do those lifts where you get 2-3 reps and that kind of thing, there's really no reason, man, at 55 to be throwing that kind of weight around, whenever, even with the squats, like I moved a pretty heavy weight around squatting and deadlifting and all that. It's like, man, why? At this point, I still like to lift heavy, so I'll grab 100-pound dumbbells or something like that, or go with the lighter weight at 250 or something like that. Do some reps with it. So I still like to reach for the heavy weights, but I'm focusing a little bit more on getting more reps while still hitting the weight. I don't think you go in there and lift the little 10-pound dumbbells and all that. You still got to reach for the heavy weight. But in terms of, I think the older you get, the more conscientious you have to be, because especially these days, going in there and trying to live 330, 350 on a bench press, something like that, now you're really subjecting your deltoids. You're asking for trouble, especially for playing drums and doing all the other stuff.
Right.
Because back in the day when I was doing the heaviest weights, I wasn't really doing other kinds of training. That was all I was going and doing, and I was having 5 days of recovery between workouts, and almost like that power lifter, bodybuilder, old school mentality back then, which is cool. But once you bring in the other modalities, and now you're hitting the drums every day, touring, you got to factor all that in so you don't overtrain or risk injury.
Right, because then you can't play drums or whatever.
Right.
I gotcha.
So, that's my excuse for throwing out a bigger number. Basically.
All right. Nice. So I used to be in the car business, and I'm a bit of a car enthusiast. Need to know, what kind of car do you drive?
What other kind of car would any self-respecting vegan tree hugger in Los Angeles drive in a Prius?
Seriously?
I do, man.
Okay. I didn't take you as a Prius kind of guy. I pictured something that's, economical, but something, sporty still and everything like that. I was thinking more, some form of Benz or Mercedes, because you're still really classy,
I drove a Benz for a lot of years, man.
Oh, right on.
Actually, so that's a pretty good guess. Yeah. I had a 300 for a long time, but and then I had a Benz before that, but an old school Stingray. But I don't know, man. It was kind of the thing to do for a second there, for a hot second there. You know what I mean?
Right on.
I jumped on the bandwagon, and I still have this fucking thing, man. 170 some odd thousand miles, man. So,
wow.
But yeah, I think. But yeah, my favorite cars to drive, this is a practical thing, is I like the Benz and the Beamers, man, just as far as really enjoying the ride. And so, we may have to, I might go more in that direction when I make the inevitable switch here, All
right, cool. Now, when you got your first record deal, that was with Vinnie Vincent's Invasion?
Correct.
Okay, so everybody knows back in the day, it's not like it is today, but everybody knows about record advances and everything. So when you all got your advance, besides, you did make some money on the advance. May I ask what you bought when you got your first advance?
Well, understand that my arrangement with the Vinnie Vincent Invasion was more along the lines of just being a hired gun.
Okay.
As opposed to, Motley Crue or Poison or one of these conventional band arrangements where everybody's like equal members and sharing and publishing and sharing the records and all that. This was essentially like a solo deal. In fact, Vinnie Vincent had his deal locked down with Chrysalis in the can. I imagine money had already changed hands and everything before I even came into the picture, which was shortly thereafter. He locked down his deal, and he got all his guys, Robert Fleischman to begin with, and then, of course, Dana Strum. So, now having said that, as I talked about in my latest book, the arrangement I had was what we call kind of a hybrid arrangement, in that you're basically a hired gun, but you also have a little bit of equity in the record and some other things. So I call token equity. So if the record would have gone through the roof, then I could have, there could have been some decent money involved with that. So really, the advance, if you will, it just came in the form of just a basic, a wage, a studio wage to go in and play on the record, essentially. And so the big purchase, if you will, was it wasn't a lot of money, first of all, and it wasn't anything too impressive. I just remember that we went in the studio in fall of '85, right? Leading up to Christmas. So I was able to I bought my parents like a what was it? No, see, the home entertainment thing was the next year. I think it was a VCR.
Okay.
Back then.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. That was expensive back in '85.
Well, yeah, it's like, I know you're so, I might have knew that, and I put a down payment on a house, but no. It was like, I bought my parents a VCR, and that was like, that was a lot of money back then, relatively speaking,
Absolutely.
The old days. Remember those things?
Absolutely. Well, when I interviewed Perry Richardson, the new bass player to Schaeffer, was the original bass player to Firehouse, he said his first advance, he bought his dad a satellite dish. And I didn't think that was funny or anything because, you know what? Those things back in the day weren't cheap either, So I totally think that's freaking awesome that you bought a VCR, So, all right. That's very cool. Right on. All right. So you drive a Prius. I got to know, what's in the CD player right now?
What I do is old school, hook up those, what do you call the thing that adapt the CD player to?
Yeah, the cassette adapter.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, man, I'm a Spotify guy.
Okay.
So I got everything under the sun in there, and it could be, any number of things that I'll play when I'm cruising around. Any number of different albums from any different kind of genre. Here lately, I've been kind of delving back off into a lot of the older, sort of classic, what we call classic rock stuff, that some of those old records, because that's kind of helping to narrow down some of the choices that we might make to do some different arrangements of the record. So a lot of it is just, I like just a lot of it, a lot of the straight ahead favorites from back in the day, Matt. And of course, with Spotify, the cool thing is you can, you go look at, say, the old Deep Purple Made Japan, you get the deep cuts or all the alternative cuts and this kind of thing.
Awesome.
I think that's kind of interesting to listen to,
I agree.
And then sometimes I just throw on some, I like some of the jazz greats, John Coltrane, Miles Davis.
Gotcha.
They played some crazy ass shit back then, man. So I'll play some of that stuff. So it can really be, it's quite a mixed bag of stuff when I get in there, just based on the mood I'm in at the time,
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. So speaking of a mixed bag and everything, if you got to play with any dead or alive musician that you haven't played with yet, who would it be with and why?
Well, speaking of John Coltrane, who I just mentioned,
right.
This guy, if your listeners are familiar, this was one of the most influential and innovative jazz musicians ever. True. And back in to me, the '60s were really his heyday as a solo artist, and man, they played some crazy shit back then, man. And there's just something about like those recordings and the sound and how he played and how improvisational oriented it was, and all of those things that's probably, in terms of someone who's already passed, that would be someone who I would have been or would be interested in jamming with.
Awesome.
To see what would happen.
Right on.
See what would happen.
Cool.
As far as live, there's a lot of guys I still would like to jam with. I'm going to say Santana.
Awesome choice.
I'm going to say Santana, man, because he's been through quite a mixed bag of stuff through the years. And of course, he has the Latin tinge thing going on with the percussion guys and all that. So I love that music, man, and that'd be fun to get in there and throw down with Carlos.
Awesome. Okay. Now, through the years, you've played with some greats, and you've toured throughout the world and everything. Have you ever gotten starstruck?
Have I ever gotten starstruck? That's a good question.
Like say one of your.
The only thing that the only thing that pops to mind. The only thing that pops to mind. And let me just clarify this by saying that there have been times when out on the road where we'll run into someone who again I grew up listening to, who I really admired, or something like that.
Okay.
And I remember just as an example, I played played at this John Bonham tribute concert back in the early 90s, and Ian Pace was there, you know.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, wow, so here's my guy, man. You know, I listened to him so much growing up that, wow,
yeah,
there he is, that kind of thing, you know. But you know, then you're controlled, and you go up and say hello, and you pass on like it's no big deal. But that's something where I was at. You know, when you meet somebody who has been that influential, it hits you. You know. Beyond that, the only time I was really starstruck, or I would not have even thought about going to the person, was I saw again back in the probably late '80s, back in the VBI days, actually. I saw Muhammad Ali at a restaurant in Beverly Hills out here in LA.
Right.
And this motherfucker, I had just such an aura about him, and of course this is he had a clique of people around him and all of that, but it was like, and nor would I have attempted to go up and say anything, but it was like I remember seeing that guy go like, man, this guy's like from another planet, you know.
Absolutely.
I'll admire from afar over here, you know.
Right. I hear you. I met Joe Frazier years ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I met him in Atlantic City and everything like that. I got lost in the Tropicana casino and hotel. They were doing a fundraiser for juvenile diabetes, and I have an older brother that's an insulin-dependent diabetic. So I strayed away from my parents and my brother, and I'm like 6 years old, 7 years old, and I got lost. So, of course, I'm wandering the hotel, looking around, and then I went to the security. I said, I kind of misplaced my parents. They're like, all right, come with us. Well, do you know your parents' name? Yes, I gave them my parents' name. They're like, great. How about this? We'll get them. And they called him on the walkie-talkie. My dad came down. He goes, where'd you go? I'm like, I don't know. I just started wandering. He's like, okay. Well, here's the thing. You got to stay by me. I'm like, okay. He's like, your brother and your mother are upstairs, so just hang out with me. I'm like, okay. So we go in the elevator, and I see this African-American gentleman with this beautiful, like, gold at the time. This is the early 80s and everything like that. So it wasn't quite bling, called bling at the time.
Right.
You know, but he had this beautiful, like, medallion around his necklace. And my dad's like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no. He's just like, that's Smoking Joe Frazier. I'm like, why do I know that name? I'm like, is he related to Walt Frazier? And I didn't know any better, you know? And he goes, he's like, that's the famous boxer that fought Muhammad Ali. I'm like, the Thriller in Manila? He's like, exactly. So I went up to him.
Oh, you knew that even, right?
Yeah, because my grandfather got me into boxing as a young kid, boxing and baseball. And he goes, so I go up to him.
I'm sorry, what did you say the combo was? Boxing and?
Baseball.
Yeah, me too, man.
Cool. So, and yeah, so I went up to him. I'm like, excuse me, Mr. Frazier? He's like, yes, son? I'm like, my name's Steve. I'm a big fan of yours. I've watched you box quite a few times. He's like, boy, what do you know about boxing? You're only, how old are you? And at the time I was like 7 or 8 years old. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, my grandfather actually let me watch the fights with him. And I think you should have won. And he's like, well, thank you, young man. What's your name? I'm like, Steve. I'm like, could I trouble you for an autograph? He's like, sure. He's like, and he had like, not a bodyguard, I guess like his posse around him. And he snapped his fingers. He's like, what do I have to sign for Steve? They're like, nothing. He's like, you're done with your Sprite. So he gave a styrofoam cup and wrote on the styrofoam cup with a pen, you know, to Steve, you know, if someone goes to hit you, make sure you duck. Joe Frazier. So,
badass, man, badass.
Yeah, it was very awesome. So, but I've been to quite a few boxing matches myself. I saw Tyson fight, you know, I got to see, who else was it? I've seen Tyson fight a couple times when he fought, what's his name? Leon Spinks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Or Cooney? Cooney?
Michael Spinks.
Michael Spinks, yeah.
Right.
And I also saw
By
him.
the way, there's a 30 for 30 on ESPN, you know, that documentary series they have.
Yeah.
There's a new one about the whole Buster Douglas thing.
Oh, and that's the other fight I saw.
It's called I think it's called 42 to 1 or something like that. I saw that shit go down on back in the day, whatever the mode got cable, you paid $50 a fight. Remember back then?
Yeah.
I watched that shit live. Just not even. I used to, I figured it was another one of these, $25 a round, you know what I'm saying? Because back then, Tyson, his first, second round, the guy was going to be gone, So, but that's a kick-ass documentary for any boxing fan, any sports fan, really.
Okay.
The odds and all the series of events that led up to that. If you're a boxing guy, you love that. But go ahead, man.
Absolutely, I will definitely have to check that out. So yeah, that's my brush with only when I met him. And then, of course, because Tyson used to live in New Jersey, and don't hold it against me, I live in New Jersey. I met him a couple times because he used to live with the car franchise I used to work for. The owner, because I do their voiceovers, lived next to Tyson, and I would go over to his house and I would see Tyson outside, and this is when he was married to Robin Givens. So that is my brush with boxers. So
cool.
Yeah. All right. So musician friends, besides your bandmates, of course, when you're in town, I know sometimes they give you a call or you call them and say, hey, I'm going to be in town. Let's grab something to eat or let's hang out before the show. Who are they?
I wouldn't do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And not for any reason personal towards my friends, but just by my social groove or whatever. I think what it is when you're on the road, there's all this activity. It's a series of be here by this time, go here by that time. Sound check is here. Back to the hotel then. Back to the show then. Pre-show ritual. After show ritual. Back to the hotel. Early lobby. It's just it's so regimented and crazy that whenever I'm back home, it's a different pace. It's a different kind of thing, and I tend to not do much socializing, if I'm just being honest.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with, my lifestyle here between the training, the practicing, and of course the writing. There's usually always something I'm working on in terms of writing and all that. So it's just every day is kind of like a juggling act of getting through all these different things, which is not a drag in any way. It's all shit that I still really love to do, but it makes planning, difficult. Hey, I'll meet you here at 7:30, or like, it's hard to really make plans and really have any kind of a social vibe. I never really go out or really go to shows or clubs or anything like that. So it's kind of a monastic life, I guess you might say, but it's what's worked for me through the years, and so I wouldn't really be inclined to socialize in the conventional way with a lot of my musician friends. However, I do know a lot of the guys, and we tend to run into each other more away from LA than in LA. You know what I mean? Like some of these festival dates that we'll do that have multiple bands on there, you run into your gang there and that kind of thing, as opposed to hang time, basically.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when you hear your music with all the projects that you've done through the years, on the radio, as either satellite radio or terrestrial radio, if and when you do listen to it, do you turn it up or do you turn it off?
I think, I guess because I'm not necessarily a big radio guy in terms of going, I think my go-to source to listen to a lot of music.
Right.
I think just the novelty of, oh wow, they're playing such and such.
Right.
Would probably cause me just to turn it up and bask in the nostalgia of what it was like to record it, kind of what was going on in life back when it was on, when that shit was hitting, and that kind of thing. So I think I'd probably be more inclined to turn it up.
Right on. Okay. Now, if you weren't a rock star, as you are, what kind of, if you didn't go and pursue that career, what do you think you would be doing?
Well, could I still hit the drums but not be a rock star?
Yeah.
If I wasn't a musician,
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine not playing. So wherever I'd be playing somewhere, you know. I don't care if it's at a fucking Holiday Inn. I'd be playing somewhere, no matter what, one way or the other. But if you're asking me if I couldn't be a musician anymore, couldn't play anymore, I think I'd probably I'd probably be a writer full time.
Awesome.
Because right now that's something that I still do an awful lot of, and that's something I've kind of had as a second career through the years anyway.
Right.
Less notable. I think many people know that I do it, but may not know to the extent that I've done it. But so I think that'd be the move. I think I would focus all my energy on writing at that point.
Cool. All right, a couple more questions and then I'll let you head out. As far as in new bands, is there any new bands that you listen to that you're like, wow, these guys are great, or wow, these guys suck?
If I'm being honest, there are, and again, this is where Spotify really comes in handy.
Yeah, that's why I brought that question up.
Right, I like to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
I like to just listen to the latest and the greatest in new bands and see who's doing what and check some shit out there. It's funny because I'm not great with band names or band members, and this is a phenomenon that I've noticed since the '90s. Since the post quote unquote hair metal era,
right?
Is that you may know a song and probably know the band, but may not know anybody's name in the band, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the biggest bands that sold the most records through the '90s and beyond. Like, I don't know these motherfuckers' names. I may even like the song because the band sounds good, but it's just it's kind of a strange phenomenon that I've noticed versus prior to that, through the 70s and 80s and all that, you knew the bass player for this band, the drummer for that. We just knew who everybody was in the band, So there's a strange sort of anonymity that I've noticed. And obviously, if you're a real fan of a bigger band, you're going to be more apt to know all the guys and all that. But anyway, the main observation I've had with and I'm using this as a blanket statement. This is not. I'm not saying this is true across the board 100% of the time, but in general, if I'm being honest, I just feel like the modern production protocols, the way records are being made these days, and in the advent of digital recording, where shit is getting sliced and diced and made to be perfect, if you will, with a lot of those kind of techniques, and then where drum sounds they're using this what they call beat replacer, or sound replacer, where you can take the guy's snare drum but swap out the way the snare drum really sounded in the studio with this other quote unquote bigger, better sounding snare drum kind of thing, and then between that and all the digital manipulation, all instruments, the guitar tracks, the bass tracks, and all of those things, while I recognize that it sounds impressive sonically, with a lot of the music, it's almost like a form of ear fatigue to listen to it, in a sense, and I can't explain, but it's like when I listen to it, and it's so pristine and so perfect that I feel like all of the individuality of the players, of the musicians, has been kind of, homogenized out of it, kind of like,
Right on.
So you go, wow, it sounds killer. It's an incredible mix. The sonics are bumping. The low end, the this, that, and the other. But I very seldom get the sense when I listen to a lot of the modern music that there are, wow, it has a feeling that there are 4 or 5 guys in a room jamming together. I don't get that feeling. I get the feeling that, okay, the drummer went first, and then they replaced it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So an observation, and it's not really even I have no real opinion about it or judgment about it. I understand it's the modern way that things are being done, and the records sound killer in terms of just the raw sonics. But I just feel like there's, I'm sure I sound very old school right now. I give me my vinyl records and all that, but maybe that's maybe because I just grew up on that, on that vibe where you got the sense when you listen to a Black Sabbath record that these guys were probably all in the room together, man. Right. Minus Ozzy or whatever. Like jamming, you could feel the shit moving around. It's speeding up a little bit, slowing down, and. So I guess because I grew up in that culture, and as a musician and someone who appreciates, listening to stuff where, that was created through guys jamming together, this kind of thing. Yeah. I guess I still favor that sound, So these are the things, when I do this, this record, I'm looking to capture that vibe, the idea that when you're listening to something, well, I'm listening to a live performance. In fact, one other thing I'll mention about it is I remember back in the day, back in the recording with Benny or even the Nelson Brothers or any record I did back then, we always tried to get a take like in one pass. Like if you could get a start, a complete start to finish pass of the song without having to do any fixes, without having to jump in and fix this fill or fix this part there. It was like, even if it was a little imperfect, just because we knew, wow, you got that in one pass, let's keep it. So, and now I couldn't even tell you what songs that wound up being a one pass take, but we took such pride in the craftsmanship of, wow, I went in there and I was able to get a song in one pass. Other times, it's one complete take, but you may go in and fix this fill here and fix this accent there. They push you in and out. That's just part of the recording process. But it was still based on a complete performance, But these days with drum tracks and vocals and all that, they could take the first 4 bars from take number 1 and then add it to the second verse of take number 3. And so it's like this, and the listener would never know that it's like a hodgepodge thing. But it's with all of that slicing and dicing, you're not ever really hearing somebody who's played a complete performance from start to finish anymore, Right. So I don't know. Not to go on a tirade here, but I guess that's probably some of the older school sensibilities that still somehow matter to me,
Right. I like how they used to go in the studio. The drummer and the bass player, the guitarist, if there was a keyboardist, would go in one room, and then there was the vocal would do it in another room. But basically, they would all record all at the same time instead of this cut together. Like today, that's what they do.
That's preferable, but even if you got to do it separately, which a lot of times logistics dictates that, the approach I still like to take is that you play the fucking song down from top to bottom. Right. Some of this, okay, play the first verse, then stop, and let's go in and hack away at it. Let me play the motherfucker down. I remember doing a session. It's actually been a few years now, but it's like a new school guy who wanted me to play a section at a time and then go in and tweak and I had to go on to the next section. I said, bro, look at that. I know you want to do some tweaking and you want to do some editing. Let me play the motherfucker down from top to bottom so I can give you like a complete natural performance. Even though I'm playing with the click, I might lean on the click a little bit as we go into the chorus. I might settle back down to the pocket a little bit. We go to the second verse. Let me just play the motherfucker down like I would really play it. So you have like a complete performance, and then we'll go in and do your tweaks, and you can slice and dice and all that. So for that guy, I went and just doing a few different takes from just top to bottom, and then I went out and had some Chinese food while he went in there and did all this Poindexter shit and just sliced it up as he wanted to. But at least I felt like, okay, you're working with some performances now instead of this, piecemealing the track together.
Right. Absolutely. Nice. All right. A couple more questions. Any advice for up-and-coming musicians?
It's hard to advise these days on the business side of things because it's all changing so much. Right. The model for how how music gets to the listener. I mean, back in the old days, you got a record deal, you did a video, you did your photo stuff, you jumped on a tour, the label helped subsidize the tour. If the headliner didn't pay you enough to open for them, you'd go do a record store appearance. There was like an assembly line process in the industry for a lot of years. And all of that has changed now in the advent of all this technology and streaming and the digital formats and the multiple ways that people can hear things. YouTube is the new MTV, et cetera, et cetera. Spotify is the new radio station, So it's hard to even know, what the ways are of doing that. I think all musicians have to pay closer attention to the business side of it and recognize that that's all part of it now. How you get out there and how your band, if you're in a band situation, how the shit is marketed, quote unquote, how it gets to the people. That's good. That's a big part of understanding how the machinery works there. That's the difference between being a hobbyist and being a professional.
Gotcha.
So that's going to be an ongoing thing. And there are new ways and there are new methods and all that are coming out all the time for doing that, and they'll continue to change. So that aside, what I would say is, ultimately, I still feel like it's all about the craft. It has to always be, at the end of the day, about your craft, about spending time working on your instrument, working on your vocals if you're a singer, always trying to get better. I remember that band director, Miss Thompson, who I mentioned early on, was a big influence. I even mentioned this right when I dedicated the book to her because she was so influential. One of the big things she told me was, good musicianship never goes out of style. So the ability to play, the ability to, get in the practice room and always spend some time each day concentrating on your craft and put down the shut off the smartphone, shut off the technology, and really immerse yourself in your instrument every day, man. Because early on, there's that saying, anybody who wants to master something has to spend 10,000 hours doing it to really be at that high level. So when you're young, that's when it's time to rack up all those hours every day. That's what we did, man.
Absolutely.
7-8 hours a day. So and that's like depositing into your savings account. So that shit will pay dividends later because ultimately, you got to play, man. You got to be able to play. So that's what again, another old school concept, I guess. But that's something I would tell listen to a lot of different kinds of music. Pay attention to how your fellow drummers or fellow guitarists or bass players, whatever, things they're doing, how they're interacting with other musicians. Listen, and then spend all that time practicing so you can stockpile, your technique and obviously you want to always try to play as much as possible as well. So you're not just in the practice room. But that's the thing, man. Immerse yourself in craft.
Awesome. All right. Now it's time to plug away. As far as in where we can find you and such, and what's in the near future besides the solo album. So, forms of social media. You are on all forms. I'm correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, yeah.
Awesome. Now, is it you that's on it, or do you have someone to assist you with it?
I do all the posts, but I'm not very good at reading the comments and doing that, doing all of that,
Okay.
So, and again, that goes back to what I just said about shutting off the smartphone and putting your head down. So for me, it's all the stuff I do every day. It's kind of a practice I try to maintain where I try to avoid the rabbit hole of reading, go back and reading comments and doing all that kind of thing. If I'm just being
right.
transparent with you here.
Absolutely.
So I do my own posts though. I feel like we should have that personal touch.
Good.
So I'll put together whatever the thing. I'm talking about a show coming up, whatever it is, and that's usually the last I see of it. But, man, I think the BobbyRock.com, even if you go to that landing page there, it's all on that page. I think it's all the links to the social media stuff, the different sections of the web, and there's also like a live dates page. So all the leaderboard stuff is usually updated pretty regularly on there.
Okay.
And so 2019 is shaping up really nice. So we'll be doing a lot of stuff there. There's a big summer tour that I understand is confirmed, but we're not able to announce it just yet. But sooner than later, we should be able to. That'll be on there as well. So we'll do more of a standard bus tour kind of thing over the summer. It looks like, and between now and then, of course, there's a lot of the same weekend dates and fly dates as we call them.
Right.
And so all that's updated pretty steadily on there.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much for taking the opportunity to speak with me. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
No
Very
problem.
Interesting interview.
All right. I hope you had a good time as much as I enjoyed speaking with you.
Very cool.
And then when you do come to town, I'll have some more chili for you. So,
man, do your listeners know about your cooking skills?
Not really. I tell them I can burn water.
No, man. No.
Okay.
Your listeners should know that you had mentioned on I guess that Friday or that Saturday that you had made some vegan chili and you're going to bring back a sample for me, which you did.
Right.
And that shit was popping, man.
Thank you.
Really, it was excellent.
Thank you. Like I said,
excellent.
You might have to put it on your rider. Yeah, put it on your rider, and then tell George Marshall that you want me as the tour manager, and then I'll make it every time, through the tour. Nice. I'll work that angle.
That was impressive, man. Really, very good. It's very excellent, man.
And last but not least, the one question of the day, and this is going to get me in a shit ton of trouble, but I'm going to go for it anyway.
Oh, shit.
Here we go. Vinnie Vincent, guy or girl?
Until and unless he says otherwise, he is Vinnie Vincent, man. That's
exactly.
all I think we could really go with. If it's that's all I can really say. He's always, and unless he states otherwise, it's a he. He's a he. What I'm trying to say,
Right on. Okay. Thanks, Bob. I really much appreciate it, and you as well.
Right on, brother.
All right.
Good, man.